You're watching Biz Check live from Broadcasting House, and we've been talking about meetings and meetings and meetings. Next week, more than 100 engineers descend on the city of Mombasa to discuss the engineering fraternity, the current challenges and the future, and of course, the opportunities. That is our conversation for now. This meeting is coming at a time when the sector is facing tremendous challenges, from the impacts of climate change to quacks. Those are some of the issues that they are going to discuss during that meeting. And this is, of course, what we are going to discuss right now with the help of stakeholders in that industry, and I'm talking about engineers. On my immediate left is Engineer Maurice Kagwe. He's a member of the Institution of Engineers of Kenya. Thank you, Maurice, for joining us.
Thank you, thank you.
And right next to Maurice, engineer, is Shamia Kiteme. He's also an engineer and also a member of the Institutions of Engineers of Kenya, joining us on BizCheck. Asante sana, the two of you, for coming along.
Thank you very much.
I want to start with you, Engineer Shamia. Last year, the conference never took place because of COVID-19 challenges. Here we are. What should we expect out of that meeting?
Thank you very much. Perhaps to begin by correcting you, my name is Engineer Shama Kiteme.
Shama.
I'm an elected council member of Institution of Engineers of Kenya. Last year we had the conference, but in a scaled down version.
Yeah.
The bigger number of our members were following the conference virtually, and then we had a small number physically, just to comply with COVID-19 regulations. So this time round, because we have a situation far much improved for COVID-19, we're looking at bigger numbers, and we're looking at intense conversations about the engineering sector and the critical roles we play in the economy. You understand, engineers are central to so many things that affect our economy. Talk of energy, talk of infrastructure, talk of food security, talk of healthcare, and basically the Big Four agenda. So we will have intense conversations and, you know, ideas about revival of the economy and basically looking forward. And we have the Vision 2030, and you know, our economy is quite robust, especially in the infrastructure industry. Talk of roads, buildings, the energy sector. So that's basically what we'll be looking at in the conference, which begins on 8th through to 12th. Yeah.
It's good that you have put that into perspective, because the meeting, this is going to be the 28th
Absolutely.
meeting. The previous 26 meeting, you know, have been held physically.
Absolutely.
And you know, they were held in a big way. Last year was a little bit scaled down with very small number of physical members, you know, attending that meeting. The majority were, of course, virtual. But now we are coming at a time, or this meeting is coming at a time when COVID-19 somehow disrupted, you know, many things, including the built environment here in Kenya. And I want to hear from Maurice Kagwe. This is not the end of many pandemics.
Yes.
What has the industry learned that is going to apply in the future in case the world was to go through another pandemic like this one?
Thank you very much. First, I start by appreciating this opportunity that you have given the fraternity of engineers to actually think around the challenges we are going through at this time. And back to your question about the COVID season, the Kenyan engineers have learned a lot, and not only the engineers, we as Kenyans have appreciated the role especially of having local solutions to our problems. We must have all come to know that currently we have no vaccines. We are relying on foreign nations for vaccines.
Yep.
But engineers have really taken that seriously. They even, during the crisis, the engineers took part in coming up with ventilators with the local institutions. And for this conference, actually, it is aligned with this theme of COVID-19, where engineers will actually be presenting solutions that they have to such situations as what we have had in this country. So part of the research that our presenters will be presenting there will be what have we learned and what role can engineers play to really scale this challenge, and others which are similar and will always be with us as a people. So maybe to just summarize what we are expecting there, we will be having engineers who will be, for instance, telling us how is our industry, the manufacturing industry, aligned to coming up with solutions whereby we can team up with other scientists to come up with our own vaccines. So those are solutions which we expect to be discussed there. And not only that, also the way we are working, the platforms we are working through nowadays. Most of us are not working physically. We are working virtually. Those are engineering solutions which have come to the country and to the world at this time.
Very well. And another issue that is likely to come up is how to induct more members to become certified engineers. Look, you have a situation whereby in a country of close to 50 million people, you only have about 2,200 certified engineers out of more than 17,000 graduate engineers. How do you bring in graduate engineers into the certified environment, Engineer Shamia?
Thank you very much for that question. It's a good one. It's a fact that we have so many graduate engineers, and it would have been expected that many transition to become professional engineers. Now, this is what happens when you graduate as a trainee engineer. You expected to accumulate experience in what we call initial professional development, and when you accumulate the experience, then you are supposed to go through an interview process with the Engineers Board of Kenya, and then you become a registered engineer. Now, when you are a registered professional engineer, then you can assume more responsibility as a professional, and that is the importance of being licensed. Now, one of the issues that comes up is, when you graduate, are you going to get experience that is relevant and that will help you to become licensed? But what we have done is that we have enhanced the process of mentorship and ensure that many graduate engineers get the right experience that they need to get, and even attach them to mentors so that they are able to prepare to take the interview, professional interview that is conducted by Engineers Board of Kenya, and become then licensed engineers. At that point, they can assume more responsibility. And this does not only happen with engineers alone. Doctors need to be licensed. Lawyers need to be admitted to the bar. And so IEK, Institution of Engineers of Kenya, has been very intentional in terms of carrying out training, exposure in professional interview preparations sessions, and just mentorship sessions, so that young engineers are able, one, to get the right experience, but two, also apply to be licensed engineers, because we need more engineers to be licensed. And the conference plays a role in that. In addition to get 25 CPD points for those who are already licensed, the graduate engineers have an opportunity to get exposure, network, and have an experience of interacting with experienced engineers, licensed engineers, and it's part of encouraging them to get registered and take more responsibilities in their profession. Absolutely.
As a young engineer, What do you think is the challenge we're having here? Because you have a situation whereby more than 1,000 graduates, are graduating every year from our universities. But you still have a very small number of certified engineers. So where is the disconnect here?
The problems that the young graduate engineers are facing are actually a thing of public knowledge. So once young engineers leave school, the first challenge they are facing is getting opportunity out here.
Yeah.
As we might all be aware, we are having so many infrastructure projects in the country. But when we look at them, the question we ask, are our engineers proportionately reflected? Because that's the first place that our young engineers should land, so that they start their training and mentorship program. So that is one of the challenges that we are facing. The other challenge that young engineers are facing in their training to get the stature of professional engineers is professional mentorship. So professional mentorship means you might get a job whereby it is the business is engineering related, but do you have a mentor to take you to the next level? So that is another challenge that they are facing, because you might realize that you might find a job whereby the environment does not favor your professional development. And how is the Institution of Engineers has seized that matter together with the Engineers Board and other corporations that are engineering related, whereby when we get graduates from universities, we are having a graduate program that is already ongoing, whereby they are attached to projects and to mentors, just to guide them through, so that we deal with this matter of shortage of graduate engineers. So that is, those are the two main issues which we are dealing with. And we are hoping that if they are addressed urgently, and as we go along, we shall get more engineers being exposed and being ready to take over the roles of professional engineers. So that's the matter at hand. Yes.
And when you also look at training, because I also know that that is something that is going to be discussed there. When you look at our programs in terms of training, are they crafted in a way that they are addressing today's engineering demands? Because the world is moving to artificial intelligence, to big data, and to analytical skills. Are we well crafted, within those areas?
Maybe from my part, and having gone through the same path, I think our education system is well constituted. But there is some element of it that is lacking. Connecting the practice out here and the education which they are learning, which is a key component of engineering training and practice. We have to connect every student of engineering with the market where they practice. It is only then that these theories and the facts they learn will make sense. So that is the link that is missing. Of course, our engineering bodies, I have to thank them, because at this moment they are really trying to ensure that our universities have lecturers who are backed by the engineering bodies, and our students are also exposed to the market. Of course, there are other legal issues, especially on how to accredit these courses, whereby the mandate currently lies with the Commission of Higher Education. But the best practices try to ensure that what is taught is also accredited by the practicing regulators and even the body of engineers, so that there is that connection.
And that is the crux of the matter here. And Shami, I want your thoughts on this. I mean, there was a push and pull between Commissioner for Higher Education and the Engineers Registration Board, and who is supposed to develop curriculum for engineers and who is supposed to supervise this. But the High Court ruled that that is the work of a Commission for Higher Education. Do you believe that this is the way to go?
Well, we respect the ruling of the court. Obviously, all of us have to abide, but we have also given our own opinion that world over, engineering regulatory bodies have a say in training of engineers. Now, we have international accords, Washington Accord, Dublin Accord, and Sydney Accord. Washington Accord deals with international mobility of engineers, and it is expected that there is input of the regulatory body into the training and the curriculum. Now, the importance of this is when you get to Washington Accord and you become a signatory, and Engineers Board of Kenya is trying to do that, it then means our training and our graduates are recognized globally everywhere. Every other country that has signed the Washington Accord. But that then also means that the curriculum is acceptable globally, and there are regular checks that the Washington Accord signatories will want to make to ensure that the curriculum and the trainers, the trainees that come out of it meet some certain criteria, some minimum, what we call graduate attributes. And then not only that, after they graduate, then they begin training, they undergo initial professional development, and they acquire some certain professional competencies, based on which then they can be licensed to practice. So while the ruling gave the entire process of the regulating the curriculum of engineering education to Commission of University Education, it puts us at odds, because a system needs to be in place whereby the regulator has a say in the curriculum, and then that is a global best practice. And our pleading is CUE needs to find a way of talking to EBK and find a way of working together, because we respect the ruling and you don't want to keep on fighting in court. But really, for us to have graduates who are recognized globally, then we need the curriculum having input from the regulator, who is Engineers Board of Kenya. And I know that there's a way out of all this, some understanding, some memorandum of understanding for the benefit of the entire profession. Because really, we lose if then we do not work with what is international best practice. We lose all of us as a profession. Yes.
One of the agenda that is going to be on the table next week during the forum is how to make our buildings greener. And it has been proven that buildings are a major contributor of green gas emission in the world. What do you expect to come out of that meeting?
This is a great time, because it is still the same time that the world is communicating matters to do with climate change. And honest to say, the building sector contributes a big portion of these greenhouse gases, which the world is trying to manage so that the people can live better lives. So as engineers, we have been having solutions to the building sector. Talking of green buildings, what we are expecting the community of engineers to let the world know and discuss are things to do with, for instance, how have we formalized the solar energy in our buildings? Further to that, how are we managing waste in our buildings in a green manner, just to ensure that our world and our children are protected for the future? So we expect our engineers to give solutions in green energy solutions, which we are offering and are being offered in the market, and which have been offered elsewhere. That is including solar energy. We also have solutions in waste management, and the way we can use our biomass, that is the green waste, to generate energy for our homes, so that the pressure we are exposing to our grid can go down and we save our environment. Maybe I should add that in the energy sector, coming off the building sector, in the energy sector, Kenya has shown the world the trend in green energy. We have solutions in geothermal. We have solutions in solar power, wind power, and also hydro energy. So from where we stand as engineers in Kenya, we have shown the world that we can adopt green energy and it can work.
Very well.
Yes.
Statistically speaking, Engineer Shamia, I mean, buildings account for nearly 40% of a global greenhouse emission, 50% of the world's energy consumption, and 40% of raw materials. As a country, do we have a policy on how to embrace a sustainable buildings in this country?
Absolutely. I was privileged to appointed into this national committee by PS Major Retired Gordon Kihalangwa on finalization of the building code. And we had intense conversations. We working on updating the building code. You know, the last building code was done in 1968.
Yeah.
So we have been working to finalize the update under NCA Act. We have inbuilt provisions for green buildings in the building code. For certain, I can assure you. We have even included
but those are proposals that are currently being made.
Absolutely. And we expect that the regulation, the building code, is supposed to be gazetted anytime. I mean, the bill is with the Attorney General. That document has inbuilt provisions for green building and sustainable buildings in terms of not only citing energy provision, circular economy. You know, you want to think about recycling.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that you reduce the extraction of natural resources. You know what I'm saying? So that there are provisions on how you will design, you will factor in life cycle analysis of the building and the embodied energy, so that then the building, because look, we consider materials, we design for safety, functionality, economy, and sustainability, and the construction materials have very big chunk. For instance, cement is energy intensive, but there are ways you can come up with means of reduction on reliance on clinker, and have cement replacement, you know, materials, so that you reduce reliance on raw clinker. For instance, you have cement characteristics altered by reduction of the sources, the raw materials, and that way then you are enhancing sustainability. And you're making building construction to be lesser and lesser material intensive and extracting of materials. You also want to think about the materials you're using, and can you reuse them? You know what I'm saying? Can you think about timber? Can you think about steel? And instead of relying heavily on concrete. So we have built that in the building code. And there are other provisions, Energy Act and all that. We've talked about solar, we've talked about wind as other alternative source of energy, and hydro, so that we reduce reliance on thermal. So yes, there is infrastructure, there is legislation, and there are tools available for us. And one of the things we've done as IEK is expose our members to design life cycle analysis of buildings, to design buildings that are green buildings. You know what I'm saying? So, and our members are quite aware. Our next stage is, of course, to deal with now clients, to appreciate the essence of sustainable buildings. Because look, you need to think sustainability. You need to think future. And there is infrastructure, there is legislation. What we need to factor in is now behavior patterns for us as citizens, beginning with the developer, to the designers, and so that there is that intention, and then we put it in practice.
Tell me this, Africa or Kenya and Africa in general, I mean, we are consumers of technology. Absolutely. I mean, when you look at you know, our investment in R&D and of course our registration of patent, I mean, it's negligible in the world. Yet we, like for example, Kenya, you continue to produce 2,000 engineers, you know, on an annual basis. What do they do? Because we had to see innovations, you know, that are well suited to deal with our challenges as a country.
No. It's a fact. Obviously, we may not be as advanced as the Western world, but I can tell you we have some of the top brains in this country. And our engineers who have opportunity in the US, the UK and all that, they shine. And we have brains, best brains. We produce best brains in this country. And I can assure you, and I will not surprise you to tell you, we have a graduate in the University of Nairobi who has come up with a speed governor using artificial intelligence. And so that we can build a mechanism for vehicles to sense a speed bump. When it is you are driving, the vehicle can sense a speed bump. We have top brains in this country, and of course R&D requires resources, and we are a resource-scarce country. What we can plead with, and especially budgetary allocations, is that we provide resources for engineers now to venture more into research. And this country is not lack of innovations. M-Pesa was discovered, it's a global phenomenon.
That was
in terms of, the
innovation of M-Pesa happened in 2007.
Absolutely. But we also have other ideas.
What other M-Pesa innovation can we talk about?
So I've just given you
especially in the engineering
sector. I've just given you an example of the speed governor, designed here by our engineers and all that. But we also have opportunities. And we are growing that sector in terms of we have the high hub that has been birthed in the University of Nairobi, and we're having engineers now exposed into R&D. What we need to do is now to resource them, and I can guarantee you, give our engineers opportunities in terms of generating the ideas, concretizing them, resource them. We are going to have excellent innovations like you can have anywhere. Make no mistake, we have top brains in this country. We have engineers in academia, we have engineers in practice producing world-class solutions. I've had the privilege of working with engineers across the board, done projects with engineers from Australia, the UK, US, Canada, and I can tell you, we are global match. Participated in conferences, around the world, and we have presented world-class papers, accepted world engineers conventions and all that.
Yes.
So really what we need to focus now is probably can we give more resources to engineers so that we can be engaged more in research. And I can tell you we are going to have as brilliant as ideas as you can celebrate anywhere in the world.
I want to hear this from Engineer Maurice. And he has put it very well.
Yes.
We do not put more resources in research and development in this country. It's not just in the engineering field. We are talking about almost all the sectors, across the board. So how do we inculcate a culture of harnessing, our energies, as engineers, and coming up with solutions for local-based problems?
That has been a challenge. How we can harness this capacity so that it is actually it actually reflects where we live and in our communities. I think the first thing we need to do, and my colleague here has suggested, is to give engineers an opportunity. Why do I say so? It is very hard for anybody to show what they are capable if they are not allowed to do what they know best. So we have a situation whereby in the country currently, most of the bodies that, for instance, deal with engineering matters are somehow, the Kenyan way of doing things, they are managed by people who, most of the time, and unfortunately, do not understand how those institutions are supposed to, what they are actually supposed to do. So you have a manager there who is supposed to be your teacher or somebody you are supposed to go to, who cannot tell you what are the, because engineering is about technical solutions which actually now impact on the other non-technical matters. So my belief is that we should actually create space for these innovators, give them freedom to work so that they don't feel restrained in any way, and they will give those solutions. I'll give an example of what we can achieve if, for instance, we gave our engineers the opportunity to innovate in manufacturing. Right now, the biggest problem that our country has is employment. Yet we know that the way to employ our people is through active involvement, which sometimes comes through manufacturing. Manufacturing is a forte of engineers.
Yeah.
But when we go to manufacturing in Kenya, who are there? They are not necessarily engineers. We have not created an environment that can foster manufacturing and absorb these engineers so that they are innovative and they give our people jobs. So I think so that our engineers are able to reflect what they can do in our communities. We need to have strategies of how to involve them because we know what they do. That is no secret. But are they the ones actually mandated with managing what they do? They are not the people. And therefore, we have a missing link. And when we have a missing link, then we cannot even be able to tell these people to be competent. We might not be able.
Engineer Kiteme, I mean, you have a situation where in this country, a lot of our agenda is driven by lawyers. How comes we have given engineers, doctors, and so much, and other professionals, you know, they seem like they have taken a back seat and allowed the legal fraternity to drive a lot of agendas in this country?
Well, I think that was a past, to be frank. We have a very vibrant...
It is still the present.
We have very vibrant body of engineers. We have taken our space. We have claimed our position. We have participated in lawmaking, because part of the problem is that there's been a lot of tinkering with the law. For example, you have the qualifications for the Director General for road authorities, for example. Recently there was an effort to change that so that it can be anyone. And engineers stood out and said, look, you want someone who is supposed to advise a minister on matters road, and that person can be someone else who is not an engineer? It is not possible. And thankfully our parliament appreciated that we were arguing from the point of protecting the interests of this country. If you want results in energy sector, for instance, you need to give that position to an engineer. If you want results in the water sector, for example, you need to give that position to water engineer. So the situation where we have people who are not technically competent and trusted with the roles that they cannot technically address, it becomes a point of a failure, because then we have policies being made by the people who don't understand the issues the legislating about. So I can tell you that is a past. Engineers have taken their position, and you'll continue to see this. Not only that, but also initiate policy initiatives. Policy initiatives that are good. And we want to work with the government, and we have reached out to counties, we have reached out to the relevant ministries of energy, infrastructure, and then saying, look, we have the ideas. Let us sit around the table, give you what is possible if you give the opportunity. And this is what the conference is all about. We are privileged to have interactions with the relevant seas of energy, water, and all that. And we want the partnership to grow, because we're saying engineers have the ideas. Give them the platform and opportunity to give you the best in infrastructure, in energy, in water, in healthcare, because really the economy is driven by the innovation and the ideas that the engineers have. But if then you don't give them the opportunity, you shun them, I mean, that's where we begin the fall. And I can tell you, the generation of engineers you're going to see beginning where I sit, what you have characterized probably in the past, right now we have taken our position, and you're going to see that going forward.
One of the discussion that will take place in Mombasa next week is the fourth industrial revolution and Industry 4.0, where the issues of smart cities and artificial intelligence in infrastructure will be discussed. The world is also moving from fossil fuel-driven vehicles, to smart vehicles. The world is moving from the cities as we know them to what is being referred to as smart cities. As engineers in Kenya, what is your role, or what role do you expect to play in ensuring that Kenya is not left behind in this agenda?
Engineers have actually already started that path. Recently, as we can see, we are having also these vehicles are already, some of the vehicles that we have been hearing around the world, which are non-fossil vehicles, are already landing in the market. And actually, currently, there's a lot of research also on intelligent systems in our local universities. That is to do with how we can harness the power of technology in doing the things that we are doing.
Yeah.
And so what engineers are actually doing is, at the year level as of now, they have already undertaken their research. They are already importing these technologies. We have some companies locally which have imported these technologies to us. So maybe what we shall be doing this time round is we shall have a venue whereby for those who will be pursuing our conference, they will be able to interact with these technologies locally, and those who are able actually to join, because this is a great opportunity, even for the economy of the country. Those who are able to harness that opportunity will take advantage earliest. So that opportunity is what we shall give our not just engineers, even the people, to view the technologies and adopt what they can.
Because we have to wind up this engagement before we get to 12 o'clock, I want to hear from Engineer Kiteme. What should Kenyans expect out of the Iraqi Engineers Conference that starts on Monday next week up to Friday?
Absolutely. This is a great opportunity where we are going to be discussing ideas about bettering our infrastructure, investment in energy sector, investment in roads, water sector, investment in healthcare, and housing, because really we know we have a shortfall housing and all that. We are looking at, like you alluded, embracing the Industry 4.0, digital twining, building information modeling. We're looking at, can we have, a bridge, both the physical bridge, but also a digital bridge, and we're able to monitor it remotely and all that. The ideas that are going to be happening in Mombasa are for the betterment of this country. It's only opportunity. We gather engineers and all the ideas that will come out of them, and we're able to make a memorandum and issue a communication to the government on the suggestions, the proposals the engineers have to advance our economy. And of course, we're coming from COVID-19 to enhance recovery of our economy. So we want to welcome the entire country to watch the space for engineers next week, because great ideas are coming from the conference from next week.
Very good. Engineer Maurice Kagwe and Engineer Shamia Kiteme, thank you very much for joining us here. And of course, we shall be looking forward to what engineers will come up with that will help this country move forward.
Our pleasure.
Your time is highly appreciated.
Our pleasure.
We are thankful
Very
for
good.
this opportunity.
Asante sana. And of course, our eyes shall be in Mombasa next week during the 28th Conference of Institutions of Engineers of Kenya to see what exactly solutions will be coming up to our local problems and, of course, global solutions. Thank you very much. You have been watching BizCheck. My name is O'Brien Kimani. Coming up next is Kurunzi Mashinani. Stay right here.